Hi, this is Gabe from MotoringFile, and today we're going to take a look at some of my favorite secret functions and ways of unlocking Mini OS 9, the digital interface, in all of the new Minis. We're in a Mini Countryman SE, but this applies to all new Minis, from the Cooper to the Countryman to the Aceman, everything. And as you might know, Mini OS 9 is a completely new operating system for these cars. It's incredibly powerful, but it's also more complex than you might be used to. That means you have to sort of master it. You have to understand how to get to some of the functionality that may have been more on the surface before. It may now be in menus or in different places than you might be used to. But it's all there and much, much more. In fact, this is an incredibly powerful operating system and just technology suite. You just have to kind of know where to look and understand how to use it. So let's dive in and unlock that. By far the most, I would say, complex part of the settings in the new Minis is driving settings. There's a lot of different settings here, and we'll get to some of them in a second. One thing that you'll notice is they pull out a couple things that Mini believes that you might want to have access to very quickly. Lane departure warning is one thing that people don't like, and so just the buzzing or sort of the blinking, the things that bother drivers, so you can turn that off very, very quickly right there. So let's go into driver assistance and let's take a look at a few things they offer. So first and foremost, safety and warnings. This is a pretty complex page, but what it shows you is really when I want to be warned of various aspects of, potential crashes, collisions. So a forward collision, this car has been set to late. Let's say it's medium. Lane departure warning. This is one where I think people really get kind of upset when it's going off too often. I have this set to in dangerous situations, and steering intervention is on. Yes, the steering wheel will actually move when I need it to, which is, some people don't like that, some people do. Active blind spot detection. Of course, you can turn this off. This is reduced. Steering intervention, warning, there's a lot of various things that I think are really, really important for people to A, understand, and B, dial in the way you want. This is ultimately your car, and you can make it as anxious as you want it to, or you can make it as chill as you want it to and not say anything ever. But as you can see here, there's a lot that is, I would say, important to understand at the very, very least. One thing that's interesting, the speed warning, I think people really, really don't like speed warnings just in general, but there are some ways to make it more subtle. Of course, it can bong at you, which is by law what Europe has. In the United States, thankfully, we don't. There's also more subtle sort of glowing that I can show you when you've exceeded the speed limit. And so there's warn when speeding, and then acoustic warning. Acoustic warning is what most people do not want. Warning when speeding is sort of just a flashing little speed indicator there. So I'm gonna turn that off because I don't want it, actually. Now let's talk about driving. This is where things get interesting. So speed limit assist. This is one I think that's really, really nice. So you can actually have your Mini adjust to speed limits automatically. So that means if you're in cruise control, it will adjust to the speed limit as it goes up and down, which sounds pretty crazy, but it works. It will also allow you to adjust manually, and of course then it just show the speed limit with no adjustment. I like adjust manually for a few reasons. I think for one, when I'm in an area that I don't know that well, it may be a situation where I'm going 50 and suddenly it drops to 30 miles an hour. I don't know if there's a speed trap right around the corner, and sometimes I actually just like to hit set. And what that little icon shows is you can hit the set button on your steering wheel and it will immediately go to the posted speed. That to me, I think is a really, really nice add to the sort of general functionality of cruise control. You can also then adjust it up 2 different increments. I have it set when I press up to go at 5 miles an hour, and on the second click I have it go to 10. And so that allows me to sort of, be very precise around the speed that I'm going over the posted speed limit. So in a sense, while I am technically still speeding, I'm not like out of control, and I'm somewhat associated with the actual limit on the road. I think this is a really, really nice one for people to dive into. It's a really important one in my mind. So now let's talk about route control and lane guidance. So Route control, this is about, when I am actually, using my automated driving, quite simply, it will adjust the speed going around corners. I prefer to go fast, and you can tell it to go fast, medium, slow, whatever you want. Lane guidance with navigation. This is amazing, and it only works with the built-in navigation. So very important note, if you're using CarPlay and Google Maps, something like that, this won't work. But unless Mini, of course, changes or updates it, which I don't think they have, this does work with the built-in navigation, and it works really well. So that means if I have to go, take an exit in a mile, it will start to signal if I'm in the middle lane, get me to the right lane, turn my turn signal on, and get me on the off ramp and bring me all the way to a stop. It's pretty incredible the way it works. And I know this has been around in Teslas and other cars, but in a Mini, it's just cool. It's a smaller car, you wouldn't expect it, and it is here, and it works really well. Distance control, this is again about the automated driving and that radar cruise that a lot of us are used to. This gives you the ability to say, I want to be closer, medium, far. In my view, the way BMW and Mini use this, close is pretty far back. I think it's appropriate. Of course, this is all about stopping distance. Unfortunately, in very urban areas, you need to be kind of close because you get cut off entirely too often. And so that's why this is close. It is important to note, I personally believe this should be a button on the steering wheel, because I think this is something you want to change more often than is just here. So this is what I would actually choose for a shortcut, but certainly something to recognize. By the way, going back to this, if you want to just turn off radar cruise and just have cruise control, you do that right here, and that way you never have to deal with this. Keep it simple. You can keep it simple. One feature on the Assistant Pro, the Driving Assistant Pro, is automatic lane change. And this is an awesome feature. It's been around in a lot of cars for a while now, but this allows you to simply press the turn signal and just do it on before the indent. So just slightly left or right, and it will signal 3 times. And if you are clear to turn, the car will change lanes on its own. These are the sort of things that add up to a simpler, more relaxing experience when you're driving 2, 3, 4 hours. Assisted Driving Plus, this is a game changer. And I'll have a little bit more about this in another video as it's actually working. But below a certain mile an hour, you actually can take your hands off the wheel. As long as your eyes are on the road, the car will drive itself. So stop, go, steer, everything by itself. You can simply chill and relax. And it does work exceptionally well in dense urban traffic. Assisted view, this is a really, really nice one to have. This shows you what's around you, and if you want, when you go into Assisted Driving Pro, you can actually turn this on, and it will always, whenever you go into that mode, it'll appear automatically. And then finally, notifications. This is just sort of giving you notifications around where to turn, what lane to be on, all the things that I think are just helpful when you consider you want transparency in the system. This will tell you everything you need to know. There's a lot of other things here, including parking, and this is a really, really nice feature for those who want help in parallel parking. It works really, really well. Feedback range steering wheel, you can turn all this off if you don't want that. And then trailer mode, this is cool, and we'll talk about this later. Let's talk about CarPlay. So as you can see, Mini has this beautiful circular OLED display. It's stunning, and it's really striking, because it's just so unique. And for a lot of us, we use iPhones and we use CarPlay in a lot of ways, and it's like sticking this big square thing in the middle of this beautiful screen. So there's a couple ways to kind of mitigate that look if you want. One of the things that I found is naturally, Mini sort of blows the wallpaper out the edges, and it kind of makes it feel seamless. But there's a couple things you can do to actually help that. And so what I do is I use, for one, I go dark in terms of the actual icons themselves, and then I go wallpaper. And this is, some people probably won't like this, but I just go black. And when you do that, it immediately, especially because it's OLED, the screen is absolutely seamless. And so now this actually looks to me much, much more integrated into the actual experience itself. I think this feels more like CarPlay is built into the system when I have it this way. Now, is it perfect? No. I mean, I've got this sort of tray down here and I've got another tray here. You know, it's sort of a limitation when you're using a projected OS within another operating system. Android Auto is not that different, but I think it is super important to note that. Another thing that is important to know as well is that Mini has this really interesting square ratio. Most automakers are more rectangular. Some are vertical, but most are rectangular. And one thing that CarPlay has changed with OS 26 is the display. And if you look at the display, you'll see Smart Display Zoom. If you turn that on, you'll notice things just got bigger. And when you go here to the actual sort of home screen, you'll notice I suddenly lost an entire row of apps. And for me, I don't need these things this big. Some people might. I would much rather have more information here. So you go back and it's in display and turn off Smart Display Zoom. So much better, I think. And I think it's ironic because if you look at what it's saying, you know, CarPlay will be automatically optimized for your vehicle's display. Gosh, everything is more crisp when it's turned off. You know, everything is smaller and I think looks fantastic. So pro tip, definitely, again, personal preference, but I would say turn that off. It allows you a much better sort of, you know, much better view, higher quality, and you get more apps. Mini has created a lot of different ways to personalize your car over the years, and they've really leaned into the digital aspect of it with this new generation. Mini OS 9 offers a bunch of different ways to do that, and specifically with exterior lights, you can change the design, if you will, of the lights themselves. And so here, and you can see the daytime running lamps and the rear lights. That is what Mini classifies as the John Cooper Works design. I don't know why Mini offers John Cooper Works look and feel for just a standard Cooper SE, but here we are. So if you like that, great. But let's say you want something different. So let's go with the favored. Favored is sort of a deviation from that, and it kind of accents the top portion of the headlight, and then Classic just illuminates the entire thing. Now let's go around back, and as you can imagine, Classic gives you that Union Jack look. Favored gives you a simpler sort of graphic, kind of geometric, and then as you saw earlier, the JCW is sort of, I would say, emphasizing the edges, if you will. So it's a fun little way to make your Mini relatively unique. Certainly something that is new to the Mini brand. There's been a lot of talk about subscriptions in cars, and you know, a lot of people are, as you can imagine, a little leery of having to pay, let's say, $9.99 for a feature that, you know, typically I just would have spent like $200 for once. And totally get it. What Mini has done in the United States, and this varies, but is generally similar, is they've created, as you see here, a Mini Connected Store. And there's a couple different sort of tiers in terms of how Mini does this. So I think it's important to note that this car comes with Mini Connected, and it has, as part of that, smartphone integration and Mini Drive Recorder. But let's talk about Mini Connected Plus and some of the other things that are in this sort of offering. So Mini Connected Plus is a $10 a month suite of applications, and it gives you a few things that, you know, might be helpful to you. So for one, and I'll kind of start right here, Mini Maps Extended is interesting. I've experienced this and it is cool. I mean, is it worth the $10? We'll talk about that in a minute. But what it gives you is three-dimensional buildings. The map is absolutely stunning. A lot of us might struggle with looking at this is, listen, we get this free, and it's called Google Maps, it's called Apple Maps. Everything here, except for perhaps uneven road surfaces, is available on those apps. And so it's a little tough for me to want to spend $10 just for that. To each their own, I suppose. Hill descent control. This is kind of wild that it's part of a software update, of course, because I mean, back in the day, I mean, this is a very mechanical thing, but you know, if you live in a very mountainous or hilly area, you might want this. I certainly have experienced this in Montana. A couple other things, mini doors and windows. You can have your doors and windows open or lock or sort of altered based on where you are. For instance, if you need to pay a toll every single day at this one spot, you can define that. The window can roll down automatically. You have to even deal with it. Intelligent personal assistant. Yeah, I mean, you know, I think this is one that, and we talked about this previously in another video, you know, Spike gets more personal, which is nice. There's seamless visualizations. There's just a nice sort of integration with Spike, and Spike being the mini personal assistant. Air console for those who want to play games. I don't know how many people are doing this, because ultimately we all have phones in our hands, and yeah, this is cool, but do we need this? Do we want this? I don't know what the use case is really for most people there. Yeah, video streaming. I mean, you know, there's a lot of different things that I could say about this, but the one thing that's very obvious is we all have phones in our hands. It's hard to make me want to stream video on this circular screen. But yeah, I mean, there's more apps coming. I mean, this is a platform that Mini is trying to build, and I give them credit for that. I mean, elsewhere there are other apps for you to download and actually have directly in the car. So for instance, if you want National Public Radio, this is of course in the United States. This one is a native app that is built into the system itself. So kind of a cool little feature. So Mini Connected Plus sort of unlocks these apps. Spotify, a built-in version of Spotify is pretty cool. I'm an Apple Music user. I think an Apple Music app would be pretty awesome as well. It's just a little bit more, I would say, you know, integrated into the overall design. So taking a look at apps, as you can see, they have them categorized, not unlike any app store that you might be familiar with. You can see what's there. Now let's go to Manage really quick, and you'll see within Manage we already have some apps, and kind of interesting, right? So these are apps that are built into the underlying system, and as you can see, there's updates, 13 in fact. Automatic updates, I'm going to turn that on. Surprised it's not. Android Auto, CarPlay. One thing you notice right away with the diagnostic service is the logo. That's an Android logo, and as you might know, this is actually sort of built on an Android platform, kind of way underneath everything. So you start to get a sense of that, even the way that sort of some of the movements work feel very Android-like. That is a quick look at how Mini Connected Store works and how it manages not just the offerings and sort of wants to sell you new products, but it also manages the apps that you have built in to your car as it comes to you from the factory. That's a quick look at Mini OSign, and in my opinion, some of the best ways to get the most out of the system. If you like this video, as always, give us a like. It's really appreciated. And subscribe. We have a lot more coming. And of course, go to MotoringFile.com, where you can read and see everything about minis.